Hi everyone, mabuhay. My name is Carla Batan and welcome back to the Talent Huddle. So in our previous episodes, we've talked about AI in recruitment, we've spoken about women in leadership positions, and even much earlier in the year, we spoke to local talent experts who explored and forecasted what recruitment would look like for the year. But for today's episode, I would say this is very special to me because as you guys know, we are in the field of talent acquisition. So, in my many years of doing this, I actually came to realize that recruitment is the one that fuels the growth of companies, whether it's small, whether it's big, whether it's startup or a big enterprise. It always starts with hiring the right people, and that's where our job really comes in. So, to make all of that mission happen, I cannot speak enough of how important it is that you have the right recruiting team and that you have the right leader to make that mission happen. So today's episode is very special because my guest is very special. So I'll try to do justice introducing her, but I'm sure she can talk more about herself later. Our guest today is an HR professional with over 25 plus years of experience in international recruitment. She is a genuine advocate of diversity and inclusion, and I can speak about that from personal experiences with her. My first parade was with her, so that, that tells you she's really a strong advocate and ally. And she is highly accomplished in building high-performing teams across the many industries that she worked in the past. Her career spans from instrumental roles from Nordstrom when she was in the US. She also was part of JP Morgan Chase. She was part of Taskus, where I worked with her for a couple of years. And then most recently, she was the vice president of recruitment for Athena. She has bagged multiple, this is going to be a long introduction. She has bagged she has bagged multiple achievements and awards, including a much-deserved 2025 Stevie Lifetime Achievement Award at the American Business Awards. Career was driven by her purpose in shaping exceptional workplace cultures and teams. I can go on and on about her and her achievements, but I think most proudly or most fortunately, I can introduce her as one of my mentors and one of my dear friends, Carmela Sais. Hey, welcome
I'm
to
so
our
happy to
huddle.
be here. I'm trying not to make faces while listening to
Long
you.
introduction.
Yeah, but I think we agreed to have fun today. So
Yes,
hopefully we can
yes.
kind of tackle some kind of maybe unique
Oh,
topics.
I have
Yeah.
no doubt this is going to be a very interesting
I know
discussion.
you might have to do a series like for all of like the first half of 2025. But happy to be here. Happy to talk about any topic. You can ask me anything.
I will. I know. I will take
Yes,
that
that's
invitation.
right.
Yes. Okay. When we created the talent huddle, I already know you're gonna be here just because I know you can hold conversations.
I know.
I
And
already
then,
know
like,
you're gonna be
always
here.
like a minute before I go in front of a camera, I get nervous and then I get stupefied, I call it, and like I can't think of anything eloquent to say. So hopefully we'll be able to share
I have
some
no doubt you're
stories
gonna be
today
great.
because the people who have worked with me, I'm sure, remember my stories. So
We
there you
do.
go. Yes.
And we're gonna get to that later. That's gonna be an exciting
That's
segment
right.
for today. Pero I tried to introduce you, but I'm sure you have your own way of introducing yourself in your own words and in your own experiences. So why don't you tell everyone
I'll try to
about
do it in a very succinct way, but thank you for that. I'm Ilongga. I'm really, really proud of the fact that I graduated from the University of the Philippines in the Visayas in Iloilo. Way, way, way back. I was high school there and then graduated from there also. And then about a year after I went to the US. I was in the US for about 28 years, of which about 24 was with a fashion specialty retailer. If you check me out on LinkedIn, you'll figure out the companies that I work with. But my husband's American. We've lived here since 2011. We have one daughter, Sydney, and she's in the US. And I was a very, very busy career person, and I'm trying to make up for lost time now that I've retired about a month ago. So I'm trying to catch up with all of the things that were to-dos and pending in my personal life. So I'm happy to be here, happy to chat because I'm now able to get out of the house and really try to go on to the next chapter of my life.
Yeah, I think the stars aligned because we've been meaning to get you here, but obviously you have your
Yeah.
work, you have your schedule, your commitment, and I think now finally
I had a birthday. I had a birthday
stars
celebration,
aligned.
and then I retired.
Yeah.
And you know those kind of milestones in your life come with. I think they compel you to think a little bit more about life and what your next step is, or you sleep a lot, or you Netflix binge, whichever way. But I miss my friends. I'm a very social person. I'm a very social leader. I like to get to know my team. And my best times are when I'm with my team and getting to know and watching them grow and watching them kind of learn. Not always succeeding, but kind of falling and learning, and then you see them from when they started and how they've evolved into. Like, I'm really, really proud of your body of work since we worked together. I was actually, don't take this the wrong way, I was surprised how much more extroverted you've become.
Life changes you.
I know, and I collect people in my life, and I think I'm that one person that people think I like them, I like everybody, but when you're quiet in your still moments, there's certain people that you gravitate to, and you those are your people,
Like your tribe.
and that's your tribe.
Yeah.
And those are the relationships that sustain you over the years, and regardless of where you work, you somehow keep in touch. And it's not too much effort because it's fun, and you trust these people because you've been through the talent of war, the war for talent, especially in the last 15 years that I've been here in the Philippines.
Your war has concluded. I look at your career that you've really come full circle, and I could not be really more proud of you with your recent achievements and awards.
I know, right?
I really
was
said,
surprised.
that's Carmela's really very graceful exit from your career.
Thank you.
So 25 years, 30 years of working in the corporate world. I wonder, how is the transition from, meetings and deliverables and stuff to now, like you said, Netflix binging and free time. How has that been for you?
I don't know. I think that I'm compelled to think about that every day. When you're very, very busy, and in the kind of industry that we were in, you can get very caught up in the habits and the routines of meetings, jumping from one meeting to another, crisis one to another, and that kind of fuels your day. But what I've learned when I actually paused and said, I think I'm gonna stop working and kind of reassess, because I just celebrated my 63rd birthday, and I'm really, really proud of that, because I'm also a cancer survivor twice. So I talk about that very openly, and I think it's a gift every day that you get to wake up, and I have just a better appreciation of the people around me, my loved ones, my family, my friends, and I just feel that every day is a gift, and so I could be happy not doing anything. And I could also be happy being drawn into my homeowners association drama. So I'm trying to decide, is that worth my time, and do I want to do that, right? So, and I also feel like I should spend more time with my family and travel and just, have quieter days.
Sydney was just here in Manila.
She was just here, and we're very proud of her. She's back in the US, and I think I'm going to see her at the end of the year. So it's kind of a little bit weird to make travel plans without thinking, do I have meetings? Is there an event?
Have I filed my leave?
Yes, do I file my leave? And a lot of us people are crazy. We go on leaves, but we still work. Right? So the one lesson that I'm really trying to practice is from an old mentor of mine, which is being present in the moment. I never really understood or practiced that when I was working. I thought it was something else, but it just gives more meaning of being present in the moment and kind of being focused on people, and being able to make sure that people are seen and heard. I think that that's kind of my new hobby, to kind of just get to know people. Not as employees, but my neighbors, my friends, people that get introduced to me, because sometimes making friends is very difficult when you're an adult, right? Harder. And your friendship and my friendship with Canada and some of our core people is actually such a blessing, because it's kind of hard to make friends when you're older.
Yeah.
But I never think that I'm older than you guys. I think like I'm
We
the
also
same
never
age as
look
you
at
guys.
We also never look at you that way.
And I asked somebody one time, it's like, how old are you? Like, you're 30 something. Oh my God, like I'm twice your
Same,
age.
sis.
But it's such a gift to be around young people. because you feel young and the energy is young, and that you're discovering things and you're learning and you're being curious.
And you know the Gen Z slangs.
Yeah. And I'm learning every day. So
Nice.
there you go.
Okay, we are going to move on to my special, to my favorite part of today's segment, which is for people like us who have worked with you for years and have known you for years. I spoke to a couple of them and I asked them, hey, do you remember anything that you think Carmela always says? Like her famous lines, like her quotable quotes. I'm gonna call this segment
Look at my
ring
face.
a bell. Does it ring a bell? And literally we
the voice of dread.
So this is what this segment is going to be about. So I collected what we think are your famous lines from the people you work with or know you personally.
What they remember. Hopefully they remembered something.
They remember. These are like just one-liners. So
all right.
The goal is I will say it. I could also tell you, I can drop the T who said that. So you know who to chase later. Pero the goal is if you remember it, if it rings a bell, then I'm gonna ask you to ring the bell.
Okay, you're going to do a practice round.
We will allow you to redeem yourself. Like tell us why did you say that? What's the context? What's the story behind that? Clear? Ready?
Sure. Yeah.
Sige,
let's have fun.
I'm gonna put Perry under the bus, John. We love Perry. I'm just kidding. So in my many conversations with my friend Perry, our friend Perry, we always laugh about it na, you know, you think your meeting with Carmela is about to end, and then at 12:59, she's gonna say, oh, but I just have one more thought. This will be quick. That's what Perry's line is. Does it ring? It rings a bell. Please redeem yourself. Tell us, what is that a scam?
I know. I'm just a very passionate, I think, mentor, and I like to make sure that the people that I'm meeting with got what we were trying to do, right? So, and then my daughter is really bad about this because she said, you're such a scammer, you know, because in your meetings, because she watches, you know, when you work from home, your family, you know, listens to your Zoom meetings. And it's like, Mom, I think your team thinks they're going home already, and then 15 minutes later you're still talking. That's because like I want to just make sure, like, did we get it? Are we you know, are we enthusiastic about it? And so it's really comes from an enthusiasm of making sure that, okay, are we all aligned? Are we rowing in the same boat?
Yeah.
You know,
that you say it and you don't forget it. So you're gonna
too much
say it in
messaging, maybe. Yeah, too much messaging. I'm working on my listening skills.
You know, our learning from that, never schedule a meeting after a Carmela meeting. There has to be a buffer. That's our learning.
Yes. And yeah, I wish I was more disciplined, actually.
Oh, we love you for it.
No.
Next, this ring a bell. Adi de la Cruz says,
Hi, Adi.
Carmela always says, fall to the sword.
Maybe a different version of that is you fall on the grenade, you fall on the sword.
Yeah.
Just because I think the one trait that I respect in people is accountability. You know, when you make a mistake, say that you own, you know, you made the mistake. You know, just learn from that. But it's really, really important that people's character reveal themselves in the hardest of times, and that you own your mistakes and you make no excuses. And then sometimes you even own mistakes that are not yours. You know, sometimes you just gotta fall on the sword. I think as a leader, you've got to be brave and courageous enough to do that.
That's one of the things that I always look for when I interview people, and whenever I need to decide whether I will support a fellow executive or not. It's like, for me, does this person show ownership, even if for something that they think is not directly their fault? But you know, so will this person fall on the sword? For me, that's yeah.
Yeah, so, lot of swords.
Lots of swords. Thanks, Addie, for sending that.
A lot of swords.
Next, I also spoke to Rich and also JL Tura. So sabi ko, hey, what's the famous line you remember from Carmela? So Carmela, does this ring a bell? Both Rich and Jay said something like, as long as no one dies. If it's not cancer, dear, it's okay. And then Jay says, oh, when things are tough, keep your head above water, and as long as nobody dies. So parang it's the same, diba? As long as nobody dies.
Does anybody remember that?
Don't be too harsh on yourself. If it's not cancer, things can be fixed. So parang same element.
No, I think the context of that is, I think there's a management style or a leadership style where we scare people so that they fall in line. And I think it's very, very important when you're mentoring people to encourage them to be brave, to be courageous, to disagree. And I found that when I first came back to the Philippines, people were so afraid of making mistakes. And I think the being afraid of making mistakes can be such it's like a learning learning challenge. You never learn if you're afraid to do things and take risks, right? I really, really believe that. Hopefully you don't make too many mistakes and you learn from your mistakes. But when you're a young person, you have to embrace the fact that, I want mentors. I want people to teach me so I don't necessarily have to make those mistakes, but you will. And you're not going to die. And you're going to, sometimes even things that happen in your career, like being redundated, being fired, being laid off, it comes with shame, and it shouldn't. It's just a temporary event in your life, and people can recover from that and do greater, amazing things. So that's very, very important. So it comes in small pills, and it comes also in big events in your life.
Last three. This comes from our friend Kavita. She said, Kavita said, Carmela always says, overshoot your runway.
I don't use that very often, but if I work very, very hard and I surprise myself, I expect that from the people I work with. I think that there's a lot of pride and a lot of joy that comes from surprising yourself when you push yourself to do things that you thought you couldn't do or you were afraid to do, but you did it anyway. And that's 3 seconds where you hold your breath like, oh, I hope it doesn't explode. And we do that when we want to have amazing careers and you want to live a life of no regret.
That stayed with me whenever I hear it from you, because I do remember hearing that from you also. Because it's like how you mentored us in that BPO before is that, Carla, if you think you want to do 5, do 7. So that if you do 6, you overshoot your runway. That's always how you kind of explain it to us. So parang, okay, you have your goal, and it's not about downplaying the goal. It's about being brave and being courageous. That why not go for it?
Going for it, right? Not playing it too safe. Because I think people think, young people, even old people haven't learned this lesson. If you play it safe, you'll dodge the bullet, right? But I look at it as like, why are we dodging bullets? You don't learn by keeping it safe. Can you imagine a career where you never take risks and your risks are very minimal, and somehow by the stroke of luck you got promoted to this higher level? I think that's where you see leaders that you don't respect because they're not an expert on their field, they haven't pushed themselves. So for me, I like leaders that probably have proven themselves.
So you and I do executive recruiting. That's one of the things I'm always very careful of when someone comes across too perfect. I'm always careful around people who...
That's very rare. I think that's very rare.
Who don't make mistakes. Like, when is that bubble gonna pop? Is it gonna pop here?
Or they're just good with hiding it. They're just good with hiding it.
Yeah, or are you lying? Are you withholding something?
I think you should be more interested in conversations where people tell you the stories of how they were able to survive a very difficult situation and how that has made them evolve. I think those conversations, if truthful, reveal more about that person's potential. Rather than hiding and making it all perfect. I don't think that there's a perfect career. I don't have a perfect career, but I'm really very, very proud of the choices that I made, and I have no regrets with any company, even the ones that I failed in, because I learned a lot from them. I know what I don't like.
Last 2 from your famous line.
There's more.
And these come from me. So I always hear you say, hope is not a strategy. And eto, I know you meant this in a kind of my humor. You said one time, I do not want to get promoted to my level of incompetence.
This is true. This is true.
Ring a bell? Does it ring a bell?
Well, how do you take hope is not a strategy? Like, what is the context of that for you?
It's like you hope that, for example, you hope to lose weight, but if you do not have a strategy and if you do not have a system, then that remains a hope. It's not a practice. It's not your habits that lead to the goal.
It's what we sometimes call a Hail Mary pass. Like you
Hail
just pick it
Mary.
mata and then you just hope,
Hope
right?
something sticks, yeah.
Yeah, but I think that that's also one habit of communication, particularly in the Philippines. I also found it in my US teams where when you're having a discussion about strategy and implementation, almost inevitably somebody says, well, I
I
hope.
hope.
I hope, but when there's big budgets at stake and the proper execution is critical, and people that know me, they think I'm nice, but I think they also, people that have worked really closely with me like you do,
I know.
understand that I'm very OC about certain things. There's a lot of details that are important. They may be small, but they're important. So it's very, very important that we don't just callously say, oh, it's good enough. Well, we hope that it would be okay na siya.
In Monday meetings before sa atin, you do your huddles with us, your leaders every Monday. And it's always it's when someone reports,
It always comes out, right?
When someone reports and say, we're gonna fill this class, we hope we're gonna fill, and then you're gonna unmute yourself and say, dear, hope is not a strategy. So
I hate that. I don't know. It's just a mentor of mine, that was their pet peeve. And when we are mentored by certain people that we admire, it sticks with us. So I even see that like some people regurgitate what I say and hope to God they apply it correctly in their lives.
You know the people you will text later and say, why did you have to say that?
Well, I hope to have drinks with those people. And hopefully it stuck, because I'm really, really proud of the people that I work with, like you and everybody that you've mentioned.
Abby, Jay, Capita,
amazing people. Rich. And what I hope is that when people look back like, oh my God, like I never imagined, that I would do this kind of work. That's what you hope for people.
Yeah. Okay. I think we have covered most of it, but I want to ask you if there's anything else you want to cover, anything else you want to ask. I think you're very purposeful and you care to give your insights around. I know redundancy is still happening because there's threat of AI, there's downsizing.
People are losing their jobs, right?
Some people are losing their jobs. I wonder if you want to talk more about that before we
well,
close.
My advocacy, is really trying to take off that badge of shame when there's failure in your career, or the word here used in the Philippines is being redundated. So people avoid saying that because they think that that's a black mark in their CV. I just look at it as probably because even since the pandemic, it's happened to the best people. Yeah, and people have been laid off, right? So for a variety of different reasons. So as recruiters, we have to look beyond that layoff, even being fired, right? I've been fired. I worked as a clerk in a vet clinic. I was fired on the second day. I'm just not good with accounting. I was depositing checks. I was awful. I should be fired. And sometimes in my career in HR in the US, I've had people thank me for firing them. It's very, very important that we don't look at these stumbles in our life as shameful. And in our personal lives, I'm very, very candid that I'm from a second family and, my family background, because I think people make excuses for not being able to do certain things, but people you have one life to live. I really believe that, and I can't speak enough about that with people that are just starting their life or their careers, because I wish somebody reminded me of that you've got one life to live and you've got to live a full life, and it's okay to stumble and it's okay to do different things. I thought you pick one career and that's your career for life. And then a lot of us were devastated in my generation because we got laid off or after years of service and sacrifice. So it's very, very important that shame is something that's a thought that you have, that you carry around with you, and it's a baggage. And I think you should be ashamed when you're doing bad things, but things that you don't have control over and things that cause you to fail, you learn from that. So I can't talk enough about that because I think that prevents people from living kind of this second chapter in their life.
I think that's the sunk cost fallacy. You feel like, oh, I took MED for 8 years. I'm going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And then you feel that you're too scared to shift and to change. But whereas you're saying that it's actually okay. It's not a failure to have to change course along the way.
And I'm very grateful for the people who didn't write me off when I failed. But I also believe that you do have to develop a reputation of being a kind person and being a good person to be around. Because the one story I was going to share is that when I first started in the Philippines, you know, when I worked in my first job, I wasn't very good at it. But I knew in my heart that I'm pretty smart, I'm pretty talented. I just felt like a square box in a round hole, and I was trying to find my footing. But I distinctly remember people that wanted me to fail. It's not a good feeling. And you know, the long story short is, years later, when I had this fabulous job that I was matching people with great careers, I had some of those people come back to me and say, hey, do you have an opening? And unfortunately, all I remember was that they were not a very kind person, and that made them a bad leader. And you know, I could not offer them an opportunity just because I felt like, you know, you discover people at the worst of times, their character, what they stand for. I think that that's a really good test of the people that you collect in your life. Who do I want in my life?
Yeah.
I'm so glad I have you guys.
Yeah. People reveal themselves, diba? Parang trials, tribulations, challenges.
Yeah. And the ones that
People
they
will
don't
reveal
kill you,
themselves.
right? Hindi ka
Yeah.
na mamamatay dun eh.
Any advice? So honestly, I look at it as, oh, Carmela is retiring and ending her career where AI is booming in TA. So I kind of feel like, oh, this is the next phase of recruitment. AI is going to change and transform. I wonder what your advice would be for the next generation TA leaders, and I would say that still includes me. Any advice to us how to embrace AI in the next phase of where this takes talent acquisition?
Well, AI is moving so rapidly that you've got to be keeping up with it and being in sync. So you've got to tinker and you've got to keep yourself, I think, abreast of what AI tools is available to me that I can tinker with that will make my job in recruitment better. And it's happening every day. And it might scare you even when you watch different podcasts, right, of how the marketplace and the industries are going to change very rapidly in the next few years. So it's very, very important as TA leaders. The assumption is when you're a TA leader that you're older, right? And so when you're older, you're thinking like, I can bank on my experience and, you know, that's my bank, right? But I think you've got to constantly evolve, and you've got to constantly just tinker with things that you're interested in. You don't have to understand all of AI, but you know, when something interests you, you've got to click on that and, you know, see where that takes you. Just last week, I was clicking on something. It's a Stanford-based research AI that allows you to research different things, and it was amazing. And then I was tinkering on presentations that, and I'm not good with presentations, but I was able to come up with a whole deck because there was this AI tool that helped me put together my presentation in a very, very short time.
I think I read it on LinkedIn. I'm not sure if it was you, but someone from your previous company. If not you, it's someone else from your previous company who said that if you don't embrace AI, or the misunderstanding of AI is that it's a tool to transform. If you take it as a threat to your career, then you're missing the point that it's the tool to transform whatever you think is repetitive, highly administrative, or low impact. So that's always what I remind myself whenever there's parang there is temptation to just spend and spend on AI because it's you think that I have to ride the wagon. But when I read that, that's always my reminder to myself, which is, am I using it because what is it for and what do I want to get out of it? What will it transform? Because if the answer to those questions are not does not make sense, then you don't have to jump to the wagon.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in the recruitment space where sometimes some of us are vetting vendors all the time to kind of say what
Very
tools
tiring also,
have
yeah.
really good AI embedded in it. And there's some good ones, and there's ones that say they have AI, but they really don't. I found that out even just last year when we were vetting vendors, and they don't have really a really good AI model that's, you know, something that will take us years
It's hilaw pa,
forward.
no? It's a bit
Yeah,
hilaw
yeah,
pa.
right. And interestingly enough, there's some that haven't even jumped on that bandwagon, so they're behind, right? So, yeah.
Last
It's
question.
exciting times ahead.
Yes, definitely. And I kind of feel like, oh, Carmela is not going to be part of a company where, AI is going to transform. The good thing I look forward there is, I can always just ask her. I can just call her, hey, what do you think?
Well, I need to go beyond ChatGPT, so that's my goal this year, to be the senior person, not senior na level. It's like an older person that can speak very eloquently about
master
AI,
of-
and and be
Oh,
able
good
to make
goal.
my peers embrace it, right? Because there's some amazing things that will happen.
That's exciting. I'm gonna support you whatever you need.
Yeah.
If you have a YouTube channel where you show us how to, I'm gonna subscribe.
Tutorial. Hindi naman sasabog yan. Nobody's gonna die. Click.
Yeah.
Diba?
Last question. In your decades of being in a people job, in HR and talent acquisition, because we deal with people all the time, so it's a people-centric job. What's the most surprising thing that you've learned about people in your 25, 30 years of working in a people-centric job?
I wasn't expecting that question. That's such a
Hirap
thought-provoking
ba?
question. There's so many answers to that one. I think I'm constantly surprised that you trust people. But the one disappointing thing is people's not rooting for you. It's almost sometimes comes in the form of disloyalty, but what's surprising is that people sometimes don't always root for your success, which I think is crazy awful. Because I think if you take the attitude of I'll always be for people's success, they don't take away from your own success. And that if you're confident about what you bring into the table, that you should not sabotage other people or talk bad about them. And it's good always to talk nasty about people, right? But to deliberately make people fail, which I have personally experienced, I was really surprised that that happens, because I'm not like that. So that's probably one surprising answer to that one. But what surprises me is that your life happens in moments, and you remember the good ones especially. That's why we like happy times, and we eat together. But I actually remember, surprisingly, some of those missions, initiatives, things that we had to do that were so difficult that I personally wanted, like, I think I need to quit, because you don't want to suffer through that. But those are sometimes the most memorable, because those are the gifts that allow you to think like, oh my God, we made it, right? So to me, if I had somebody tell me that that's what life is about, right? Accumulating those memories, I would have probably enjoyed the experience more, and not probably think that I need to bail out when it's difficult.
One word to summarize your 25, 30 years. There's one word to describe how you feel about about your career.
I like to live my best life with no regrets. I know it's not one word, but it's something that I really believe in, that I hope people really drink from that Kool-Aid. You live your best life of no regrets.
And be a good person.
And be a good person. People will remember you if you're a good person.
That's a wrap, everyone. Thank you, Carmela.
Thank you.